I was like, there's only one mic today. All right. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Midnight Memo.
Good night.
Good night. No, don't go to sleep yet. We have things to say.
The tea.
We have the tea.
Tea.
We still have time.
I feel like a fool. Should I make tea to spill?
Purely just to spill it.
Over the mic for some ASMR.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Steps to make tea. First you boil water. Then you get the tea bag. Mm-hmm. You pour the hot water into the cup with the tea bag. Mm-hmm. You then try to drink it. It's too hot. And then you set it aside, intending to come back to drink the tea.
In like a couple minutes when it's a reasonable temperature to drink. Drinkable temperature, really.
Then the next step is to forget that you made tea.
Until now it's cold.
And then you have to reheat it.
Are you the type of person when you have tea that you leave the tea bag in the whole time you're drinking it?
Yes.
Or Oh.
Straight off the bat.
I see. I may be looking for a new friend, guys, because that was a red flag. Really, dude?
Yeah. Do you not?
No.
I mean, I just really like strong flavors.
I usually do, but I think, you know, my Asian tendency is I will reuse that tea bag till the day I die. I will reuse it to death.
I do remember in when we were roommates,
I had a lot of tea bags hanging around.
Yeah. Be like, all right, she's using it later.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we get too far into it, hi, I'm Claire.
And I'm Kristen.
And thank you for tuning in. This is the podcast where we get to talk about all those thoughts that keep us up at night. And we are also trying out a little bit of a different mic setup today. So
can you tell?
Apologies.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope you can't, but apologies in advance. We're just trying something new, you know?
She's different.
Yeah. But we'll see how it turns out.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. We're back in person. Yeah.
It's been a hot sec.
It's been, I want to say a few weeks.
Yeah.
At least. I could tell because Mocha was super excited to see me.
Oh, yeah. My pup attacked her. Claire literally had to just like shuffle into my apartment because my dog like ran out to meet Claire at the doorway as soon as we opened the door, and Claire had to kind of like shuffle in to try to move her and my dog into the apartment so I could close the door.
Yes, it's been a minute. We bonded.
Yeah,
she followed me into the bathroom. We had a moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
She like loves you then. Damn. She didn't follow my partner into the bathroom this morning. Ooh. But I think it's because he put the cone on her today. My dog's in a cone right now too. Well, not really a cone. It's like an inflatable donut because the last time we put her into a cone, she tore apart my previous apartment, and I don't think I got my security deposit back. So we're learning from that, and she's now in an inflatable donut, which I think is even funnier because I can actually see her face when the donut goes too close to like her ears, and she just looks like all her rolls push forward, and she looks like a blob, and it's so cute.
It's super cute.
But I don't think she likes it. I think it's hilarious, but...
I was just gonna say it's another reason why we are the perfect couple and not you and your partner. We pointed it out on the love languages one.
We did.
I'm just saying.
I even brought it up yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. We're making pizza. These are all just like side tangents now. We were making pizza and putting our own toppings on it right down the middle. Mm-hmm. And I'm cutting up my olives because I'm freaking love olives.
Yes, you do.
And I'm putting olives all over mine. I'm like, do you want some of yours? And he's like, no, I'm okay. And I was like, oh, maybe there is hope. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, it's the olive test. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the olive test, that in every relationship, one person loves olives and the other person doesn't. And we have now established that. So there's hope for us because we did not pass the pickle test.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. We did not pass the pickle test. And he's like, oh my god, what's the pickle test? And I'm like, literally the same thing, but with pickles.
Okay, first of all, fake fan.
Fake fan.
Didn't listen to the episode.
I know. Fake fan. Calling him out.
Yes, I have no shame.
How freaking dare he? You know what? You're right. How dare he? Anyways, so yeah, I was talking about the pickle test, and he's like, what's the pickle test? And I'm like, literally the same thing. We both don't like pickles, but in every relationship, every successful relationship, there's one person who likes pickles and one person who doesn't. And he's like, well, and I was like, you know who does like pickles? Claire. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm sorry, I cannot top your wife.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard.
And the other day he said the same thing when you and I were FaceTiming. He was, we were looking at trips.
Yeah.
And we were trying to plan a group trip with Claire, myself, my partner, her partner, maybe some other friends. Yeah, just planning a big trip. And I said something, but he was already walking out of the room because he's a sucker. And as he was walking out of the room, I was like, babe, I'm asking you this question. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if I was involved in this trip or if it was just a trip with you and your wife. And I started laughing, and I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It's true.
You've been uninvited from the trip. It's now it's now a wife trip.
Yeah, we should do a girls trip though at some point. Side note.
Yeah, we haven't done one.
No, we haven't.
Well, not since college. Like, we did once in college, but speaking of college.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow, do you like how I just segued into
seamlessness.
that? Seamless. We were thinking of, well, it was suggested to us on our live by Kayla, who is an adorable human being.
Yes.
And
actually, love you, Kayla.
And she suggested to us that we talk about roommate / I guess dorming stories in general. I think in general we're just going to talk about roommates.
I think we could generalize it to like just college. Interesting roommate situations that we've had.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
some of mine are not roommate stories. Interesting college scenario.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like we've had a lot.
Yeah.
Looking back on, we both took a few notes down, but
Claire literally didn't even take. Well, she took notes, but it just turned into like a one-worded long list. It's like a whole page, a whole note page, and each line only has one word on it.
Yeah.
So she took notes, and a lot of them, but also not a lot, because it's just, I'm like, how do you know what you're going to talk about off of this one word? But hey, if it works, it works. With her cross out words.
Yeah.
The pen.
Going back to the notes, I have just one line crossed out terribly. Also, I put freshman year on top, but none of these
None of those happened in freshman. No, the first one did.
The first one's freshman year. None of the rest are freshman year. Did I organize these notes? No.
That's why I asked you. I was like, are we doing this in chronological order? And you were like, no. And you looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why would I ask this?
It's do you like my doodle?
I did see the doodle. Claire even had time to doodle on her notepad. Which we mentioned in, I don't even remember what episode. Was that episode 4? Anyways.
If y'all haven't listened to it, go listen to it.
Go check it out.
Shameless plug. Okay.
Oh,
do you want to start?
I don't know which one I want to start with. No, I don't want to start. You start.
Okay. I'll start. I'm going to take you back to
back.
Early college days.
Early college.
I won't say specific years, but we're going to make up some names for anonymity. So one year when I was moving into the dorms, I was randomly partnered. So I think a lot of colleges do this. Mm-hmm. When you go into dorm rooms, you have the option to be randomly partnered with someone else. And so that's what I did. What was interesting is that like the dorm Kristen and I had lived in was a living learning community, but you had to have put in an application to live in this dorm. I never filled out an application to live in this dorm. So my theory is because it was an engineering dorm, they were kind of grasping at women engineers to live in this dorm. So they're just like, you're a women engineer.
You're a female.
Yeah, we're just going to pop you in there. And I was like, great. So move-in day comes and I'm kind of meeting all of my new roommates. We lived in a suite style dorm. So there technically supposed to be 6 of us, 3 rooms with 2 people each. Mm-hmm. So my actual roommate, I'll call her Sarah.
You love the name Sarah.
Listen.
Every time Claire has to come up with a fake name, she uses Sarah. Her drunk alias alias in the sense of like when we would go out and she didn't want to give people her real name, it was always Sarah. Mm-hmm. I don't remember when you decided this, but you decided it at one point and you're like, I
think it was when we were in Canada and we went to that bar and we started...
Someone gave us the idea about fake names, yeah.
No, we started just like talking to these guys. Do you not remember this?
No!
Oh my god, so... Okay, we're going on tangent, but so Kristen and I went to Vancouver one year for spring break.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we ended up going to this bar one night. We met a couple guys and we were just all hanging out, dancing, and then when we were leaving, we wanted I think it was me who wanted to go home, to be quite honest.
I mean,
checks
realistically,
out. Yeah. I was like, let's leave, like I'm tired, whatever. And then these 2 guys came up to us and started talking to us. And then I was like, I don't want to give them my real name.
Right.
So I said my name was Sarah. But they were asking us if we want to like, what is that activity where you have a rope on the side of a building and you're climbing up the rope?
Grappling? No, not ground.
It's like on the side of a building. Like you're just scaling the building. I don't know.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the word for it.
Yeah, they're basically asking us if we wanted to do that. And I said, absolutely the fuck not.
Bro, none of this
but
is
you were like
interested
interested in it, and I was like, Kristen, we are leaving.
I don't remember any of this.
Gosh. Yeah.
Was this when we went to that art bar?
No, it was a separate night.
We
took like we took the vitamin C shots or whatever, like what we did in Italy.
Oh my god, yes!
Yeah.
Okay, yes. All ringing a bell now. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was when we were in Canada?
Yeah, and they were like, do you want to scale a building? I'm like, fuck no. And you were like, maybe, and I was like, Kristen, we're leaving.
Kristen, no! Can you tell who's the...
I'm like, Kristen, I'm an introvert.
Oh yeah, that was the issue. Kristen, we can't scale a building. I'm an introvert.
Anyway, I told them my name was Sarah. I think that's where it started.
Yes, okay. I remember that interaction now. I don't remember the scaling the building part, but now, okay. This all does ring a bell now.
I was like, who?
Wow, I have completely
You've been where? With who? Okay.
Completely blocked this out of my memory. That's wild. Oh my god, you remembered something.
Again, completely unimportant details. High five. Yeah.
Amazing. So proud of you.
Yes.
Look at that high five sound. Anyways.
Nailed it. Anyway, so...
Going back to the original story.
Back to the story. We're circling back here. So it was move-in day, and I was meeting my roommate for the first time. We're calling her Sarah, and she's very quiet, like very... And so I basically... Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I basically introduced myself to her parents before I introduced myself to her. Wow. And, you know, different people handle getting to know a new roommate differently. So I was like, okay, like, give her some space. I didn't introduce myself, but I wasn't like, let's go do this, let's go do that.
Just and like, so, hi, I'm Claire.
Yeah, hi, I'm Claire. I'm going to be your roommate for the next 9 months, you know?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. And it was still kind of where all the parents were helping you move in. And so there was that kind of buffer period that we didn't really like talk. But at the end of when the parents were kind of leaving.
And it was just going to be you two now.
Yeah.
Well, you 6, but you 2.
Yeah, us 6, or actually I only had 5 people in my suite. One girl ended up dropping out before move-in, so there was only 5 of us. And a lot of the parents for like move-in gifts, you know, they would bring us brownies or cookies or...
cute.
Yeah, they're like, oh, little, you know, dorm warming gifts. Mm-hmm. And I found out that my roommate was gluten-free. So she can't have any of these brownies, can't have cookies, can't have anything that like our parents had left us.
That's such a tough life.
Yeah, truly. And I was like, oh, I feel bad. So I like stopped by the store and got her like gluten-free cookies.
I didn't know you did this. That's so cute.
Yeah, because I felt bad. I was like, well, if we're all going to get to know each other later, you know, like sit in the common area within our suite, eating and drinking. Yeah, like I want her to have something, you know?
Yeah.
And so I got her these cookies, and I was like, hey, like, I know that, you know, we have a bunch of stuff out there, but since you're gluten-free, I got you these. And so I gave her these cookies. I was like, hey, here are some cookies. And, like, she didn't even say thank you or anything. She was just like, okay, and, like, took them and turned around and just, like, put them in the cabinet and, like, closed it.
I don't like that.
So that was, like, kind of the first inkling of, I don't know if we're going to gel very well, but it's still, like, the first day, whatever. Come later on, like maybe we've been living together for a month or 2, and you know, instinctively you kind of want to get to know your roommates a little bit and hang out and things like that. And I had found out that my roommates weren't really inviting me to hang out with them. Not the best feeling, right? No one likes to be purposefully left out, and I never knew why. It wasn't
at
like
this point you didn't
at this
know
point
why.
I didn't know why, and I was like, you know what, like it's okay. We just probably don't gel. I also wanted to get to know as many people as possible. So I was like, I think this is when like we met. And so I was kind of just trying to get... Yes. I was just trying to like meet other people in general throughout the dorm. And I think it just started becoming more of a hostile environment in our dorm. Like me and Sarah didn't share the same sleeping schedules. I would stay up and study at my desk a lot of the times, and she was very smart. Like, I am not going to take that away from her. She is one of the smartest people ever. She never studied for anything and aced every single test. And so she would go to bed very early. Like, she would go to bed at 8. And so I would be like,
what a healthy sleeping schedule. Could
I
not
know,
be us.
could not relate, still can't relate.
Still cannot relate.
So she would go to bed early and I would not.
Right.
So I would turn on my desk light and she would get mad at me for studying. And it's like, okay, this is a shared space. Like,
yeah, this is my room too.
Yeah. And so then I eventually kind of oriented my desk to where the light would shine backwards, like to the back of the room, away from where she was sleeping.
Okay, yeah.
And she would still get so mad at me. So I basically got so uncomfortable that I ended up studying in either the main area of our suite, or we had a classroom within our dorm area to study. So I would study out there. But she made me like feel very uncomfortable in my own space, which is not very cool, I would say. And then one night, okay, get this. I think I touched on this in the insomnia episode, or the sleep episode. She tells me she has gluten intolerance, right? She doesn't tell me she has night terrors, though. So one night she just wakes up screaming and kicking her wall like she's literally getting murdered.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this at all. No one warned me. So I was scarred from that.
For good reason.
For good reason, yeah. And so, funnily enough, though, we never talked about it. I didn't really know how to bring it up.
I was going to say, so literally the next morning, or because she didn't like wake up from that, right?
No.
So the next morning, just nothing was said.
Nothing.
We moved on with life. We just let it happen.
Which was crazy. It's also, I guess, partially on me then, because I didn't bring it up. But
yeah, because I was going to say, I don't know if she's aware of it, so I don't know if she even could bring it up, which sucks because that means it's fully on you to breach this subject.
Yeah, it was just so bad. But
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it was a really weird dynamic. I still tried to be cordial because she was also an engineer, computer scientist, so we'd have a lot of classes together, know a lot of the same people, but she literally would never talk to me, like, ever. And this was a similar theme with a couple other of my roommates, but we're focusing on Sarah, so later on, actually, I'm going to bring in another girl.
I was gonna say,
who should I had 3 really bad roommates in the span of 1 year. We all lived in the same suite, which was unfortunate for me.
Goes back to why I stole Claire.
Yeah.
I don't know why Josephine stuck in my head just now.
Josephine?
Josephine.
Okay. Josephine. She was in the room next to me, and Josephine, literally, when my mom talked to me about going to a school that was in a very Caucasian dominant area, and she's told me, you're gonna run into people who have never met an Asian person before. I thought she was joking.
Dude,
she was not joking.
Yep. Gonna break into a side tangent for your story. I remember when I was leaving, it wasn't even like the fact that I was going to Washington. It was the fact that I was going to the mainland, which is what we call the main 48 from Hawaii. We call it the mainland. And a lot of my family and friends were telling me, like, they're gonna, not a lot of people have seen, well, I'm not,
POCs,
I'm like, POC, like, not a lot of people have seen a brown girl with dark hair, and, you're gonna be going to Washington especially, they're gonna think you're Mexican. And I was like, that's such an exaggeration, you're absolutely lying. And they're like, that's the only people that they know with dark complexion and dark hair. That's the closest thing they have. And I'm like, okay, you guys are exaggerating, like, that's crazy. First day at our school, I was floored with the amount of blonde hair, blue-eyed people. I could count the amount of brunettes that we saw at our freshman orientation, which was literally involved the entire freshman class. The amount of people with black hair, I could count on one hand.
Yeah.
The amount of brunettes I could count maybe on my hands and toes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't think I ever got compared to a Mexican, but I did get a lot of weird comments. But
it's always where are you from? You look so exotic.
Oh my gosh.
I
always thought that exotic comic was crazy until I got it. Until someone actually called me exotic to my face, and I didn't.
When was the first time someone called you exotic?
My freshman boyfriend's grandfather.
Oh, we love it.
I'm hoping that it was a dated reference, but still it was someone who literally looked me in my eyes and was like, wow, you're so exotic. And I was like, I don't know how to take that.
Yeah.
But I think that was also just a trend in his family.
Oh, that's tea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that. Yeah. It's really weird because I think the first time I got it was in high school, And
see, before college, I didn't have any.
Yeah.
It's just so diverse in Hawaii. So if anything I got, I looked pretty white.
I think it's also too just the awareness, especially the last couple of years. It's like now looking back on these interactions, I'm like, oh shit, like people kind of suck. Like people, in some ways, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt where it wasn't meant in a malicious way. But now it's like, oh yeah, you can't say that anymore.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. But yeah, going off this race conversation, Josephine and her family, it turns out that they had a prejudice against Chinese people, which, hi, I'm Chinese. You can't see me, I'm Chinese.
Just take my word for it. And
it was one day where I was sick in bed. I couldn't go to classes.
I hate this story.
Yeah, and so it was like I left my door open, like my own room door open, because I was the only one there, and so I was like, lights are off. I'm sleeping or trying to sleep, and Josephine and her dad burst into the suite,
the main common space.
Yeah. And her dad was going off about, all Chinese people are the worst. They're taking our jobs, they're taking our money, like blah, blah, blah. Saying all these horrible, horrible things, not really knowing that I was in my room. And, I mean, looking back on it.
Did he know that you being Josephine's suite mate, what you are Chinese? Like, did he know, my daughter has a Chinese?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So because even more so. Yeah, we met all the parents on move-in day.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they didn't know I was there. And like hindsight 2020, I truly wish I had the guts to have gone out and be like, bitch, say that to my face.
Yeah.
But I think I was just so shocked in the moment that I didn't know how to react. And so I remember calling my mom later that night and I was crying.
You called me after.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
You called me. And at this point, I had only known you for like maybe a week or so. Like, it was pretty fresh.
Yeah.
And you were just like, you were just like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're just chilling in my room. You know, me and my suite mates, we're just chilling. And you're like, can I come hang out? And it's like, of course, that's not even a question. And then you came up and you like, I could just tell you were going through it. And I was like, ooh, let's go in my room. We can talk. What's going on?
Yeah. And it was so strange because in San Diego is also such a diverse community.
Yeah.
No one really blinks an eye when you're, Chinese, Indian, Hispanic, like...
Very unfazed.
Yeah, and so I called my mom and I was like, this is the first time I've really experienced racism, and I don't know how to handle it. And my mom's like,
you were a college student. Like, yeah. It's your first time interacting with that too. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. So...
You were beating yourself up too when you came up to me. You're like, I should have said something. I'm like, bro, you were, first of all, sick. You were supposed to be knocked the fuck out. You were supposed to be asleep, tired. And second of all, it's your first, like, they didn't know you were there. Like, what were you supposed to do in this situation? Like, don't beat yourself up over that. And you were just like, I should have said something, Dad. And I'm like, okay, maybe, but also.
Yeah, it was so strange. Yeah, and then going back to Sarah, I found out later that she shared Josephine's views on life. And so that is the reason she did not like me as a roommate. I went through all the stages of grief, to be honest, I think. I thought it was my fault, but then I got angry and I was like, obviously, her views are outdated and I don't agree with them. But if that's what she grew up with and she feels is correct, I can't sway her. It has to be her. Yeah, that was one of my bad roommate stories.
Jesus.
Yeah, but we're past it.
We moved on.
I've surrounded myself with good people.
So I guess for me, I don't know how to start this.
I can ask you. Hey, Kristen. Out of curiosity.
Great segues.
What's been a time where you have had a crazy roommate situation?
Well, I lived with this girl named Claire, and she was...
Oh, I hear she's crazy.
She's the worst, honestly.
Yeah.
Pretty chaotic, pretty stressful.
Yeah, I hear she doodles weirdly on her notepad.
She draws 6 sweet flowers. My guy, 6.
Deranged. How dare she?
Red flag. Yeah, I've had some weird roommates living situations. Basically, being from Hawaii, it's kind of like a thing for whenever you go to a new place and you are introducing yourself, that you bring something of Hawaii. Usually it's like Hawaiian chocolate macadamia nut chocolates or something like that, so that's what I did. And you bring it and you kind of use that as an introduce yourself, kind of as a way of leaving a good impression and spreading aloha, giving the Hawaiian spirit. So I did that, and I was giving it out to people just sporadically for a while when I first moved.
I remember that you had like a little tub or a little
I had a bunch of Ziploc
cardboard
bags.
yeah.
So my dad actually brought them up one of the times he was visiting me, and so I had all these chocolates, of course, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it out to people as I meet them, as I'm socializing, or even just friends. An astronomical amount. I had 3 gallon-sized bags of these chocolates. Like, I had a fuck ton.
Yeah.
And so I left the chocolates in my desk drawer.
As one does.
You know how you have like the snack drawer at work? I had the snack drawer in my room, so I was doing that. I had no issues, no question about it. And I think I was on my last one, and then I was like, oh, I went through these pretty fast. But I was like, I mean, like I just said, I was giving them out to everyone. I was snacking on them all the time. So I was like, nah, maybe that checks out. Maybe I have gone through them that quickly. And I guess I made a passing comment to one of our friends about it when I was sharing the chocolates, and they were like, oh, I thought you gave it to
Camille?
I thought you gave them to Camille, your roommate. And I was like, what are you talking about? And this person informed me Camille's been giving them out for a while now. She just goes around giving them to VRAs, the dean of the engineering school, like professors, just sharing my chocolates and using it as an introduction to give her elevator pitch to these people and make a good impression. And she was using me as a fun fact, being like, oh, here's a chocolate, my roommate, she's from Hawaii, blah 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 blah. Oh, by the way, I'm Camille, da 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 da, like introducing herself and using my stuff and me as an in to get with these people.
Ugh.
And that made me feel so icky. First of all, you downgraded me to a fun tidbit.
Yeah, it's like using you as like a little token or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a token POC person, basically.
Yeah.
So that was one of my first interactions that I'm just realizing, was my first like
tokenization.
I was tokenized as, oh, I know a Hawaiian girl, which I'm not Hawaiian. I am from Hawaii. I am not Hawaiian. I can go into a whole spiel about how that's different. But I hated having that label pushed on me. People are like, oh, she's Hawaiian. No, I'm not. There's Hawaiian people who are native Hawaiian, like people who are actually Hawaiian, and
the indigenous people.
The indigenous people from Hawaii, and there are people who are born, raised, family immigrated there. Like my family immigrated there during the plantation days. So I am from Hawaii. My family is from Hawaii, but I am not Hawaiian. And so being contextualized to that type of, like you said, tokenized person of color, like, oh, it made me feel so icky. And then to add another layer on top of this, she went through my shit, which it's such a small thing. It's such a small thing.
It's privacy. It's not a small thing. It's privacy.
Yeah, it's like, that's the even crazier part, is I just threw it in my drawer, in my desk, not thinking anything about this. But still, it's not like I left it out, you know? Like it's not like it was left out. I did say they could have chocolates. Like, I was like, if you guys want some, let me know.
Yeah.
And, I want to share.
Yeah, and you also had, in your suite, you had, like, a common bin.
We had a candy jar.
Yeah.
that I like, left out.
Yeah, and, like, people, I remember, would be like, oh, this is for everyone. Here's the common, candy jar.
So, I forgot we did that. You're totally right. We
did
that.
So, if anything, she could have taken it from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we did have that. And so even more icky that she literally... if you really wanted to do this whole spiel of, oh, my roommate's Hawaiian, like, here's Hawaiian chocolate, whatever, you could have taken from the community bin. And she didn't. She went in to my drawer, took my shit. She, like, literally stole it. She took a whole fucking gallon-sized bag of chocolate from my freaking drawer. And I confronted her about it. And I didn't want to be I didn't want to be a dick about it because I'm still going to live with this person for the next however many months. I don't remember at what point months we were in. It was still beginning of the year though. So I didn't want to be a dick about it, but I felt gross. I felt so violated.
Yeah.
It's just chocolate, but it's still, I was like, if you're willing to do this for chocolate, like, what the fuck else?
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, did you, like, take some of my chocolate by chance? Like, the ones that were in my desk? And deadpan immediately started denying it. She's like, no. And I was like, are you sure? No, I would never do that. Why would I do that? And I was like, I don't know. I've been hearing, you know, not naming names or anything, but I've been told that people have seen you been giving it to the dean, professors, RAs, people.
Yeah.
And kind of using me as a token. And she was like, no, I would no, ew, no, and just reeling, just word vomiting, all these, adamantly denying it, being like, no,
yeah,
just spinning all of this denial. And at some point I was like, okay, not worth it. Like, and for a split second I believed it. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just, you know, maybe this person got it wrong. Okay, move on. Then we had a friend in our dorm, so we were really close with some other people in the dorm. One person was into longboarding, and I thought that was cool, so I wanted to get into longboarding. This person taught me how to longboard, which was super duper great. And he even let me borrow his longboard. So he was teaching me how to longboard, and this was right before we were going to leave for a retreat. It was a retreat that the school had organized. So he was teaching me how to longboard, and then I was like, oh shoot, gotta run to the retreat. And he's like, well, you can borrow the longboard, just like keep it for now. And I was like, oh, awesome, thanks so much, really appreciate it. So quickly bopped back over to the dorm and threw the longboard in my room. And I didn't think about it at the time, but I guess subconsciously I thought back to this chocolate incident because I hid the longboard. I put it underneath my bed behind 4 storage containers, like all the way in the back of my bed. I don't know why. I was like, oh yeah, this is normal. Didn't think anything of it. Didn't process that I was like actively trying to hide this, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Forgot about it for the rest of the weekend. Come back to our dorm on Monday, Sunday, whatever day it was. My room is trashed. Like, my bed was on the floor. My sheets were half ripped apart. My everything under my bed was pulled out. And my longboard was tipped over, crooked.
Yeah.
In the middle of the room.
And keep in mind, Kristen has OCD.
I have OCD, so there's
no way she would have left her room like that.
Exactly. If I was the type of person where I like left shit disheveled, maybe we could have gotten away with this. But no, I am a type A person. Like, I fucking cleaned my room before I left on this retreat. So I was like, something doesn't belong. And
the math ain't mathin'.
The math ain't mathin'. And I look on the other side of the room. It's spotless. It literally looks like someone ransacked our room, but only touched my half. And again, I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. So I was like, hey, Camille, did you have a party this weekend? It's fine if you did. I don't care. But do you just mind next time you do it to either not have people wreck my side or just don't go on my side at all? That'd be great.
Yeah. And
she was like, no, I didn't have a party. And I was like, really? Because my side of the room was a mess. And she's like, are you sure that's not how you left it? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's not how I left it. I wouldn't leave my bed on the floor.
Yeah.
Not on its bed frame, you know? And she was
like, you don't do that?
She was like, crazy. Oh, that's really weird. And I think this was either a phone call or a text message. So I hadn't seen her face yet. And she was like, oh, that's really weird. And I was like, okay. So now I'm like kind of irked and I'm waiting for her to come home because I want to have an interaction. I want to like talk to her. And so I started asking around in the dorm, asking people like, hey, has anyone seen Camille? Just kind of, no, actually I didn't ask anyone. I was waiting around and then someone came into the room and I asked this one person specifically and they're like, oh, you didn't see her yet? And I was like, no, why? And they're like, oh, because she's on, they're like, oh, it might take her a while to get here. She's supposed to be on crutches. And I was like, what the fuck happened while I was gone? I was gone for a couple of days. And they're like, oh, she sprained her ankle on your longboard. And I was like, what are you talking about? And this person was like, oh, she was out front longboarding all weekend, and she was trying to impress some of the guys in our dorm and could not get on the board, tripped and twisted her ankle. I was so pissed I didn't laugh, but like, that's kind of funny.
I'll laugh for you. It was funny.
I was like, the fuck? So now I know that she took my longboard, so she's the one who wrecked. Like, I knew she took my longboard. Like, no one.
You don't ask without already knowing. It's like the when you ask your boyfriend something, and it's like, if she's asking, she already knows the answer.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely. So I was like, yeah. So they were like, oh yeah, you said she could use your longboard, right? And I was like, she didn't even know I had it, because the friend who taught me how to longboard literally taught me right before I left on the retreat. I threw it underneath there and I left for this retreat. Did not have cell service the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So there was no way of getting in contact with me. So I went to the person. So, and for all intents and purposes, the longboard was now mine. Like, this person loaned and said, like, that's your longboard. And so I go back to the person who loaned me gave me the longboard. And I was like, hey, did you give Camille permission to use the longboard? Because at this point I was still fuzzy if he was loaning it to me or like giving it to me. But he told me to keep it for now. So I knew it was quote quote mine for at least the time being. Yeah. And he was like, no, I told her it was yours. And I was like, okay, so she came like trying to trace our steps here. I was like, so she came up to you and she told you, like, she asked you for the board. And he was like, yeah, told me the same thing this first person did. Yeah, she wanted to go longboarding outside with some of the dudes. She wanted to use one of mine. I told her I don't have one. I gave it to you. And then she's out there longboarding with your board, so I figured you gave her permission. And I was like, no, I've been on a retreat for 3 days. I have not had cell service. I have not talked to her. And he's like, well, she's on crutches, so no. And I was like, yes, I've heard. So people are telling me. Yeah. But I went back to our suite. I see crutches in the corner. Yeah. So I was like, okay, something's not mathing. Yeah. Waited. Like an angry parent waiting for their child to come in from curfew. Waited in the common space. She comes, trying not to pretend she's limping in. And I'm like, hey, what happened? And she was like, oh, I twisted my ankle on the stairs the other day. And I was like, oh, really? Are you supposed to be on crutches? Are these your crutches? And she's like, oh, no, like, yeah, but, like, I'm fine now. Like, it doesn't even hurt. It was just, like, a quick strain on the stairs. And I was like, oh, where? Which stairs? And just, like, trying to catch her. And she's, like, lying out her ass. And I'm like, really? Because I heard you went out longboarding with and listed all the people that I got stories from, confirmation, and who was out there that she was longboarding. She's like, oh, no, that wasn't me. And I was like, really? Because all these people saw you. All these people said they were with you. And she's like, well, like, yeah, but it was Grayson's longboard. Yeah. Grayson said I could use his longboard. And I'm like, really? Because I just talked to Grayson and he said he told you no because it's mine. Yeah. And she was like, no, he told me it was his. And I'm like, so you were longboarding? And she's like, and then she just starts backtracking, just literally talking about anything else. And I'm like, dude, the fuck? Yeah. Like, this could have been easily solved. Like, if you just asked me, if you told me, if you apologized for wrecking like, there were so many steps that you could have corrected all the things that were wrong with this. Yeah. And at least saved your ass a little bit and just kept denying, kept going against it. So I was like, I literally can't. So after that, I just like could not interact with her. I was like, we're gonna be cordial. I am locking my stuff up though. Yeah. Now. Like that Reddit story about the guy locking his closet. I was afraid to do that, but I had good reason.
Yeah. Jesus. It's like not once, but like twice. Yeah. That she just was, like, violated your privacy.
Within a couple weeks, because this was all in the beginning of the year.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Violated my privacy. Kleptomaniac stole my stuff, and then like compulsively lied about it each time I caught her.
Yeah. Uncomfy for sure.
I was so and there were so many situations before that where I was made very kind of like when you were studying. She also went to sleep earlier, so I was already uncomfy. Like
Yeah.
I already felt like I was being a burden to her, but then I was being violated in my own privacy, like was not comfortable in my own room.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was not great.
Not good at all.
No.
Oh, man.
And that's honestly the worst feeling, is when you can't even be comfortable in your own...
In your space.
In your space, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, going into a dorm situation like that, you know you're going to be rooming with someone, and you know you have to make those compromises and, like, figure out how to live, cohabitate together. Cohabitate? Cohabitate?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
English.
And it's like, you have to work together to make it comfortable, and to purposely make it so uncomfortable for one party, like,
yeah.
stop.
Like, I get it.
Then live alone.
Yeah, you're not going to be comfortable all the time, because you're still sharing a space with, at this point, someone you just met, you don't really know. But compromise in some way. And what was worse is we signed a freaking contract before we moved in together. We all came up with a list of rules, a list of, like, do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
We had to fill out a roommate contract. I guess I didn't freaking put "don't steal my shit" on it or something. I thought I did. I guess not. So
Yeah.
it's like little things like that you wouldn't expect to need to be explicitly said. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Some people really have not lived with other people.
It's, yeah, the audacity. We go back to the audacity of people.
Audacity. Oh my god.
Well, wouldn't that be crazy?
I forget that we went through these things, you know?
Yeah, we're just digging up old memories.
We really are.
We're just hurting ourselves.
Honestly.
Well, I guess we could do one last story.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, we can go back and forth.
Okay.
Because this is a story that happened to both of us. Yes, it's a lovely story. We should come up with a name.
We started to tell this in the live, and I was telling Claire, I was like, we should stop this now, because we can just go on and on and on about this, and it's a very interesting story. I think
it is an interesting story.
I think.
Yeah. What should we give the name of this person?
Jesus.
Darla?
That feels so weird, but sure.
All right, so let's paint the picture.
What picture are we painting?
Kristen and I and our other friend all studied abroad in college, and during the summer, we went to spend 6 weeks in Italy.
Yep.
For our program, we kind of did a pre-orientation for this study abroad program, where we went to a few different locations before finally settling in Florence, where our school was and where we would be taking classes. So we spent a couple days in Rome. Kristen came a day late. Personal issues.
I don't want to talk about it.
We won't.
Kristen's bad with planes. Okay, guys, let's leave it at that.
And within the first couple of days, it's like you're meeting everyone in the program and kind of introducing yourselves.
It's kind of like moving into dorms again.
Yeah. And so it was a pretty small program. I would say there was like 30 of us, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
About?
It was super small.
Yeah. I actually didn't meet her. Wait, did I meet her in Rome?
You did. Because I met her as soon as I landed.
Okay.
So I had literally just got in, checked into the hotel. It was like really late in the evening. Finally got myself there, and I was like, okay. And you guys were like, yeah, we're just coming back from dinner. We're just coming back from whatever. We're going to be there soon. And I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense for me to go venture out on my own at this point. I'll just wait for you guys to come back. Then you guys came back. We kind of were kicking it in the room. And this is when Darla comes in. And I was like, we have friends now. I have a friend now.
Yeah. Your friend is my friend.
Exactly. That's exactly how
it works. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. And there were only 3 beds in our room for you, me, and our other friend. That was not Darla. Not saying that about Darla, but it was the other friend that we're intending to room with for basically the entire time we were going to be there in Italy. And so because you and our other friend had been there already, you guys had all your stuff set up on 2 of the beds. So the 3rd empty bed, I was about to set my stuff up on it. So you and our other roommate were unpacking your stuff, or just settling in for the night, really. And I was going to unpack my stuff, but Darla was sitting on my bed. And so I'm confused, but I haven't been there for a day, so I was like, oh, am I the problem? You know, like, I was like, oh shit, like, maybe
things got shifted around.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh shit, like, am I in the wrong room? So I asked Darla, I was like, oh, am I in your room? Like, is this your room? And she's like, oh no, I'm rooming with the other girl who had just came in and introduced herself. And I was like, oh, okay. And she just continued to sit on my bed. And at this point, you and our roommate were in one of the beds, and you guys were watching the Lego Batman movie.
No, this wasn't a CC.
No,
I stand by it. I stand by it.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was, because I met Darla the first time in a CC.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Dude, I promise you.
No.
This is night one.
No,
This is night one. Before
no.
we were leaving to a CC the next day.
Girly. Oh, we needed the third girl here to wrap this story. Anyway, okay.
Anyways.
Yeah.
This was night one, and we were still in Rome, leaving for a CC the next day. And so yeah, she's on the bed and she's just looking at me, and I'm like, okay. And you guys were watching the Lego movie, and I want to get comfy. I have just been on a plane for 14 hours. Like, I'm fucking ready to go to bed. Well, I wasn't like really like tired to go to sleep, but I wanted to de-stress. And there's this person I have met 30 seconds ago sitting on my bed, and it was pretty late
for the time change,
for the time zone. And you and our other roommate were basically like you guys were watching the movie, but you guys were basically falling asleep in your beds. And I was like, I couldn't even like I was just basically staring down this girl as she sat in my bed.
Yeah.
And it was just so uncomfortable. You guys were blind to it because you guys were watching the freaking movie.
Yeah, and sleeping.
And you guys, well, yeah, you knocked out like immediately.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you guys got through over half of the movie. She just sat there on the bed, literally didn't talk to you guys. And I was like unpacking my stuff in the corner, trying to like not invade her space on my bed, even though she was on my bed. And it got to the point, literally both you guys were racked the fuck out.
Yeah. And
she's still sitting there just like staring at the freaking wall, doing nothing. And I was like, hey, Darla, I'm gonna get to bed in like now, like Claire and our other roommate are asleep. And she's like, oh, okay. And she could see nothing, just continued to sit there. And I was like, so I'm gonna need the bed to go to sleep. And she's like, okay. And she like stood up. She walked over to the door and stood there. And I was like, okay, are you gonna go to your room? And then I even tried to give like the excuse. I was like, were you staying in here last night? Like, are you actually supposed to be in this room? Because I'll, switch with you if you were here. And she's like, oh no, I'm really in that other room. She stood there for like a few more minutes before she finally was like, okay, well, I think I'm gonna go to bed now. And I was like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
And then she like went to bed, but I was like, what the like I laid in, so you guys were already asleep, and I just laid there in bed, also just trying to reel from jet lag, but like reeling from this interaction, just like, what the fuck just happened? Maybe I was just jet lagged and got some weird vibes, but something was off. She was hanging around a little too long. I don't know.
And then after this interaction, we took a bus. We went to a CC, and this was our second stop on our pre-orientation program. Wow. Yeah, and then we had the same roommates, so everyone was supposed to keep their roommates throughout the whole trip. And
just made it all easier.
Yeah. And so we made it to our hotel, and we were unpacking. And from what I can remember, Darla came and like knocked on our door, and she was like, hey, like, what are you guys doing? And like at this point we'd literally spent maybe 0.2 seconds in our hotel room, like we're unpacking and things like that. She's like, hey, what are you doing? We're like, nothing yet. Like, and
just got here with you.
She's like, cool. And I was like, what's up? Like,
are things happening? Are we missing something?
Yeah. And she's like, no.
And then she came in, she sat on my bed again. Can you tell what really irked me?
Yeah, Kristen needs her privacy, guys.
Yo, honestly, this is the trend. Honestly, that is the trend right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go lay on your bed.
Don't sit on my bed with your outdoor clothes. Ugh.
So Darla, I don't even know how she got into her own room that fast to then come knock on our door.
I was
But I don't know. It was just weird energy where she was connected at the hip. And I think that a similar thing happened that night where we were all like trying to wind down for the night. She just kind of like waltzed in. Yeah. And at that point, we were all trying to get her out of the room, but like in a nice way.
Yeah.
Like,
you were navigating that because you were cranky tired.
Yeah.
Claire was like, I need
tired.
Sleep.
Yeah. In
Respectfully,
nice
fucking leave.
Yeah. And it took her a while to get the hint. So I was like, okay.
I think literally at some point, no, not you, our other roommate. She was more blunt and she was like, hey, can you leave so I can go to bed?
Yeah. Yeah. And so we eventually make our way from Assisi to Florence, where we're going to be staying for the next 6 weeks. And we are living in kind of what they call pensiones, which are like apartment style living. And each room in this pensione had an extra bed. Even though we had 3 people, we had 4 beds. And so we were moving our stuff in. We got to the pensione, moving our shit. And I think I was the first one to get cornered by Darla, because it was when we were...
It was when we that first day when we were moving our stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we had just gotten there, just started, like you said, putting our stuff away, and she came into the room, we had our door open. We literally just walked through the fucking door, just put our bags down. So the door was wide open, and she just walked in, and she asked us, hey, can I move in with you guys? And we're like, huh? And I don't think we had any issues at this point, but we were just confused. We were like, are you supposed to be living with us? Like, what's wrong? And she was like, oh, no. And you asked her a little bit more. You're like, why do you need to move in? Why do you want to move in? And she was like, oh, I just don't get along with my roommate. And I asked the owner of the pensione if I could move into your guys' room.
It's been like 2 seconds. Why don't you give it a few more days or like a week or something? And if it's still not working out, then we can like come back to this conversation.
Yeah.
And then I do remember I think I went out to get a snack, and then she had cornered me when I was outside of the room again. Yeah. And so she cornered me, excuse me, in the kitchen area, and she was like, hey, like, so can I move in with you? Like, literally only a few minutes after all of us had this conversation. And I was like, well, why do you want to move in? And she was basically saying that her roommate doesn't like her and like all this stuff. And I was like, you haven't spent enough time with your roommate to know if she dislikes you. Like, because keep in mind, the only time we spent time in our rooms during this pre-orientation trip
was literally
to sleep. Yeah, the whole day we had different tours, adventures, restaurants, experiences that we were doing around these cities. So then again, I was like, just give it a little bit of time, then like maybe in the future, maybe it's
not
in the
a no, but we're just like,
like this is very weird, abrupt. We literally just got here and we're all just trying to get acclimated again in a new city. And then she ended up cornering you separately, and then our other roommates separately, and we were all kind of on the same page. It's a no for now, but like
we all had enough respect for each other that we're like, I'm not gonna make a decision for these other people, for my other roommates. And the consensus when you asked all of us was kind of like, let's give it a hot sec. So all of us were like, feel it out, and I'm gonna go talk to my roommates.
Yeah, like we have to make sure all of us are comfortable.
Exactly.
And again, like a reminder that me, Kristen, and our third friend we've been living together at this point for a year, so we're comfortable with one another.
Yeah.
So we all end up going back into our room, and we like close the door. Kristen was like, lock the door.
Yeah, I was like, lock that fucking door. And, and you're like, we don't need to lock it. And I was like, no, lock that. See, this is my issues from my other roommate coming there.
Like, lock that shit
Kristen
up.
now locks shit, and I hate locking doors, dude.
Yeah, and we ended up, we're like, well, we don't want people to like walk in on us having this conversation. And so to take a step further, we were like, let's go to the back corner of our room,
like the farthest possible
so
point,
that like people can't really hear us from the outside. I think we were all being paranoid, but rightfully so, if you give us a second. So we were all...
It seems really drastic, but just wait on it.
Yeah.
Wait a hot sec.
So we were all like gossiping in the back corner. We're like, hey, I just got cornered by Darla. Like, you got cornered. I got cornered.
Yeah.
And so basically all 3 of us don't really feel comfortable having her move in.
Yeah.
at this point from the pre-orientation where she didn't really want to leave our
just
room.
a few days, yeah.
Yeah, and so we were like, let's just tell her no. If she approaches one of us again, we're going to say no. And as we're having this conversation, you can start to hear the doorknob start to jiggle, and we like all stop. And so we were like, okay, it stopped for a minute. And then, I remember I went
you went
over
to the door.
and I opened, like unlocked it, opened the door. No one was there.
Yeah.
And then we closed it again.
Yep.
And then like went back to talking, and then all of a sudden,
you were like, no one's there, and I was like, oh my god, we've reached insanity. Like we're going crazy. We're being too drastic. We're doing too much. Like,
yeah,
what's going on? We're doing too much.
And then we like go back to talking. We hear the door start to jiggle again, and all of a sudden the door opens fully, and it's Darla. First of all, what the like we're all thinking like, what the fuck? Like, we just locked that door.
Yep.
And what are you doing here? Kind of situation. Yep. And so we were like, hey, like what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, like I'm moving in with you guys. And we're like, hold the fuck on. We all just were conspiring.
Not even conspiring. We all know we said no.
Yeah, like none of us said yes. So like we're all on the same page. And we're like, since when?
Yeah.
Like really? Like who? And she was like, well, I basically went down to the person who's in charge of giving everyone keys.
Yeah.
And she said she told him that she was one of us to get a key to our room.
Stolen identities.
Yeah. And I was like, well, why would you do that? Like,
but why?
And so we were like, no, we are not comfortable with this, especially now after that you've literally pretended to be one of us and like
and broken in
and broke into our room.
She also, when she opened the door, she was like, oh, hi guys. Like she was like, oh, you're here, kind of like reaction.
Yeah. And
she was so surprised when we told her no. She was like, why? And we're like, because you just broke in.
Yeah, like we do not feel comfortable.
And then I remember our other roommate was like, what if I was changing right now?
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh. And she was like, yeah, what if I was I could be naked right now, and you just open the door's wide open. Everyone could be seeing me right now. And
so she ended up going back to her original roommate, and
well, they also, I don't know if Darla told the old roommate, but somehow she found out. And I remember she came up to us and she was like, hey, is Darla moving in with you guys? And we're like, no. Mm-hmm. Why did she tell you that she's moving in with us? And she's like, no, I just found out that she's moving out of my room, and I don't know what's happening. Like, what did I do? And we're like,
it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think at some point we had to talk to her, right? And be like, hey, like, we don't mind you coming to hang out, or like doing, like, we can all do things together, but you don't need to exist in the room all the time. Like how she was always coming in our room and just hanging out. Not even hanging out, just sitting on my freaking bed. And
sitting on Kristen's bed.
Sitting on my bed.
Crazy stories.
Just the brink of that's just like the first few interactions too.
Yeah.
I want to end on a happier note than that. Ugh.
What was a good roommate story?
I guess this person named Claire was like, alright. Like, I still kind of talk to her.
I hear she's pretty freaking awesome.
Damn.
She said confidence.
The C is for confidence.
That is all the stories we have for now. But if you guys at all want us to do a part 2, because I kind of want to do a part 2.
So many stories.
Yeah, so many stories to be told. Let us know. Or if you have any interesting roommate stories. Oh, if you have any roommate horror stories, let us know. I know we're not the only ones. I know it. Yeah. Reach out to us. Leave them in the comments on our Instagram.
Or TikTok at The Midnight Memo. Or feel free to email us, themidnightmemo@gmail.com. Oh, if you liked this and you like the podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you like us or rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to follow the podcast on any platform so you can be notified when our next episode drops next Tuesday. And
that's
on
all
that
I have.
note,
yeah, I hope you guys have nice roommates.
And I don't know how much of, I think everyone, most of our audience has already gone through college. But for those who haven't, I hope you have a good living situation.
Yeah.
That's.
And don't be afraid to get out of a bad living situation. I think both of us stuck it out. But if I had to do over again, I would have just pulled my ass right out of that situation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to leave bad living situations either.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. right.
And on that cheerful note,
Yeah. It's late.
it is late.
Bye.